Good evening and welcome to the Sunderland Elementary School Committee, Tuesday, January 24th. Called to order at 7:02. First item on the agenda is review and approve minutes of December 19th, 2013. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second?
I second.
Who
Any-
officially seconded?
I got it. That was faster.
Any questions, changes, errors, comments?
There was a question last month during when you were discussing the minutes about the capital. I think Tracy asked a question about what we had approved in the minutes for capital with the heating, the hot water heater. And we did find out that we did find out that last year, that you recommended the replacement of the boilers and the hot water heater to continue to be on a capital improvement request. The idea to establish a fund of $50,000 a year for 4 years in order to replace the aging boilers and to downsize the water heater. This would make the system more efficient and cut fuel costs. It's also recommended that $16,000 be added for total building wireless accessibility. Now, I do know that the wireless was paid for by the town's cable money, and that's already been taken care of. I know that the $50,000 went on a warrant, but I don't recall if it was ever approved on town, if it ever made it to town floor, and if it got approved. I have to go back and look at the town of Sunderland's warrant for that, for last year.
Okay.
I don't recall if it was or
It
not.
was.
Oh, really?
I just don't recall.
I know.
Was it part of that vote, though, that went out that didn't get approved? Or was it a separate?
It was a
warrant?
separate,
thought it was
because it was
separate.
not part
It
of the
was
Frontier
separate.
Capital warrant, it was for the Sunderland Elementary School.
It was
No,
just
but,
for,
yeah.
gosh, I don't remember.
So
But
anyway, we'll go back
Yeah.
and check.
And if I
Yeah.
can't find it, I will get in touch with Margaret Nardowitz, so we'll send that out to you.
Because the town had something on the ballot at the
Right.
actual election that failed, that was part of transferring capital money. So that's what I was wondering, if it was part of
Part of that.
Oh, okay.
Or if it was a separate warrant approved at town meeting, and I frankly don't remember.
Okay.
Okay, well, I will find that out, but the wireless was taken care of, and we will figure out about the
So
50,000.
the wireless was a separate article, or was that part of our budget?
It was a separate article.
Thank you. And do I have a vote to approve the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is financial statements.
Okay, you have in front of you the December financial statements. We do have one variance to report. It's on page 1. Our general supplies are over $1,324.18. I did speak with the principal, and we told him we need to stop the purchasing unless they are for necessities like paper. You know, we'll find a way to deal with that, but the other stuff, you know, we needed to put a freeze on it because the money's gone. We had 6 warrants to sign tonight. There was the fiscal agent payroll for December. There was the January monthly expenses, a warrant for the after-school program, the Horizons program, a school choice warrant, a school lunch warrant. So there were 6 total that you signed for us this evening. Any questions?
How's everything else looking? Okay? We're sort of midway.
I do have some concerns with some line items. We had talked last month about the principal's salary line with that unexpended expenditure that came up that did hit in December. So you'll see a large amount in the monthly column. I'm concerned about printer copier costs for the school. It has just come to my attention that we are paying both still the lease and maintenance contract, so we're paying per copy as well as still paying a monthly fee. I sent an email today to the copier company, the lease company, to see how many more payments we have on these leases, because we should be doing one or the other. Your maintenance contract doesn't normally kick in until your lease payments are done, so it somehow looks like we got like an extended lease period. So I want to get more information on that, because that's eating, we're already eaten up the maintenance equipment for the school line, and most of it's the copier costs as well as the contract for the fire and security alarms. So I am concerned with that line also.
I was just wondering about that line in district-wide database.
Yeah, but we had talked about that. What had happened there, Carlos, is that we moved, every school was on a standalone server for the student database, and we moved to iCloud computing,
Yep.
so that the district can share data at the district, and it was an additional $1,000 fee a year.
Okay.
So we had to go over by that
I
amount.
remember that.
We did adjust the budget for next year to include that.
Included.
Next, do we have any public comment?
It's you, Emily. You're fine there, or you're welcome to join us,
Very
or,
informal here.
Okay. So.
You can relax.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a friendly group.
Yeah, we're
And
very.
It's not even live on TV.
No,
And
I
actually,
mean, it's gonna be recorded later, right?
Okay.
yeah.
and I can give a little background, because I did share with the committee your concerns, and I have given them the transportation policy as well that I had given you. So you're not coming in, they have knowledge of your concerns and what you're asking, unless that's changed since our original email.
No, well, I actually, so, should I go, well, if you
Sure,
read the
please,
email,
just-
should I just?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, my name is Emily Krems. I'm the mother of a first grader in the district. I'm also guidance counselor in a middle school in the region. And my concern came about in December when, at the end of the school day, my son in first grade was mistakenly put on the wrong bus. And so rather than going to his dad's house where he normally goes on that day, he came to my apartment complex, and I wasn't planning to be home for another few hours. And all of a sudden got a phone call from the office staff at my apartment complex saying that he had been waiting there outside my apartment, which I estimated was about a half an hour that he was waiting by himself. Once he got off the bus and the bus left, there was no adult there for him. He crossed a really large parking lot. My apartment is on the far end, very opposite of where the bus drops off the kids. Crossed the whole apartment complex through the parking lot, and then, so he ended up waiting about a half an hour. And the only reason why it was only a half an hour was because I happened to live below the office, and so the office staff know him and saw him and brought him in. So then, of course, I had a conversation with principal at the school, and my concern is that it doesn't seem like there is a policy. That essentially, I was informed by the superintendent that parents are responsible for children before they get on the bus and once they get off of the bus. So in the situation that happened to my son, I don't know how I could have had that responsibility, and what I would have liked to have seen is for the bus driver to know that he's a very young child, that there was not a parent to greet him there, and to put him back on the bus and take him back to the school, or for the bus driver, I guess, to walk you to school. So it all ended well, but then after a few weeks, and when I realized I was going to come here to speak, I thought, well, wouldn't it be a nice little project to contact other districts and see what their policies are? So I contacted a number of districts. Some districts have their policy right on their website, and other districts I had to actually call and talk to somebody. So sometimes I talked to someone in the central office who said, this is our policy. Sometimes I talked to a principal at the elementary school. And so I actually have a summary to hand out to each of you. You want to maybe pass that down? Thank you. On a couple of phone calls, I asked them to clarify, is it practice or is it policy? And sometimes it was clear, sometimes it wasn't entirely clear. The websites that had the policies written down, that was clear, that it was policy. I'll just summarize actually and say that there is not another district that has the same policy as here, which is basically no policy. Every other district I contacted, at a minimum, kindergarten students are not let off the bus unless there's an adult, or the adult gives written permission for the child to get off the bus and either be with an older sibling or walk on their own, at a minimum kindergarten. There are some districts you'll see in the very middle, Hartford. I happen to have a cousin that works in the Hartford School District, and she found the policy immediately on their website. They do grades pre-K through 3. They do not get off the bus if there's not an adult there. And then some of them, told me, or on their website indicated that, what do they do if there isn't an adult? And most of the time, they either take the child back to the school or they radio to the school contacts the caregivers. If the parent or guardian is not able to be contacted, then emergency contacts are contacted, but the child is safe in the school. So you don't have a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, my son is 6.5, walking alone, not knowing what to do. So, after researching other districts, and after experiencing what I experienced with my son being on his own like that, what I believe should be a policy at a school would be, at a minimum, or what I'd like to see, I would say, at this school, at a minimum is kindergarten, but what I'd really like to see is kindergarten and first grade. And the reason why, the school bus drivers wouldn't let the child off if they're in kindergarten or first grade and there's not an adult there, or there isn't written permission from the adult that they can get off the bus on their own. And the reason why I say first grade is that my son, even if I told him in the morning, which I certainly have started doing, with more regularity, this is what you're doing at the end of the day, even if I tell him, he's still developmentally, he's going through the whole day, how's he gonna really remember? So if something like this were to happen again, I don't have a second grader, so I don't know how I would feel about a second grader, this happening to a second grader, but I have a first grader, and I know if this were to happen again, it's possible a similar thing would happen where he would be on his own. Although, of course, I've had multiple conversations with him. If you're ever in a situation like this, do this, do that, you do the other thing, given what happened. So that's basically it.
So when Emily contacted me, I always thought that our policy, the written policy, was kindergarten. Because that has been our practice.
Right.
That has been the practice, that's what the bus company, that is their practice. So I think it should be written somewhere. So even though it is our practice and that's what we've been doing with kindergartners, it's not written down that way. The other difference too with districts is that we're one of the few districts and bus companies that really does door-to-door service for the most part. So that it's more complicated when it's a multi-housing situation. But kindergartners, first graders, for the most part, are being dropped at their driveway, at their door. So I do think there should be some language, at least with regards to kindergartners, because that has been our practice. It's been our practice for as long as I can remember.
Before this came up, my understanding was it was actually K through 3, and that's what we've told our kids, and what we've actually done. And I think
I was actually going to say the same thing, Doug, because I remember thinking with my son now in 4th grade, and I can empathize with you, like Emily, because I've been trying to get to the bus stop before my son's let off, so, and sort of in that panic mode, so I can certainly relate to that. And thinking of him kind of, walking up the hill by himself, but that was always my understanding too, Doug, that it was,
K through 3,
K
which
through 3.
seemed to actually seem reasonable.
Right.
And, and as I explained it,
Yeah.
my wife to our daughters in terms of, why that was, and, because
Just in case.
the older daughter
Right.
being an older kid feeling like, well, I don't need
Right.
you guys to walk me from where she gets left off at the end of the driveway into our house, but it's like, well, this is.
Right. Years ago, there were bus stops. And, parents could drop off their child at the bus stop, or the child walked to the bus stop, but it was never door to door. That changed in the 80s and 90s. So it has been a practice for some time, that most people are picked up at their house.
I'm so sorry this happened.
Yeah,
And, you
no,
know,
I'm
I
just-
can't even, my daughter actually got dropped off at someone else's house, and I was waiting at the bus, and she just went because her friend said, we're going to the movies. And I think she was like in second grade, and it was the most terrifying scary. moment. So I can't even, you know, I totally understand, but I can't imagine how you felt, so. And I really appreciate this work. I as well always was told, because we had an incident, or something that we asked about it, and we were told it was kindergarten only, and that was the policy, and that part of it was that the bus company. I think it's definitely something that, you know, we're gonna take a look at this and, act on it. You know, I think we should have a discussion about it, and.
And I think I will bring it to the other school committees as well, as a concern. Because we searched every policy. I could find no language around kindergarten. While it's been practiced, there's nothing written to that effect, so.
And I do feel like, Marty, even as I mean, this was a long time ago now, but sort of sitting in that kindergarten visiting day, I want to say that was even something that was brought up.
Right.
You know, and it was just, even though I always thought it was to third grade too, Doug, that, you know, because, you know, you have all these parents sitting in the, you know, sort of wide-eyed, like, my
Right,
child's going to take the
right.
bus. And that was kind of reassurance, like, you know, they will not be let off, and, you know, if they don't see anybody there, so. How would that affect the bus company, Marty, if we?
Well, since the practice is for kindergarten, it won't affect it at all, because that's what they're doing.
Right.
It would change it, to be honest with you, for first through third. And I haven't approached them on that, because I wanted to wait and see.
I mean, the worst case scenario would be we'd have more children return to the school.
To the school.
Right,
And then the parents
especially
would
for
have to pick
third
them up
graders.
here.
Right.
There'd have to be somebody here, so there had to be, the office has to be manned till they get an all-clear signal that the buses have all delivered their students. And then anybody would be returned here, and parents would have to pick up here.
Right.
Can I say something about that? Some of the school districts, I think maybe one in particular has it written down here that after 3 times that happens, then, you
You
know,
lose the privilege.
you lose the privilege, or, you know,
Right.
report to DCF, something like that. I mean, if you're not there to
3 times, yes.
child 3 times,
Yeah.
you know, even 2 times, even 1 time.
Right, right.
But, you know, I mean, this would safeguard, if there were a policy against, you know, the parent that's home and doing other things and being irresponsible. You know, I think that a school district, you know, it's sort of the whole package. You know, I don't think a school district should just drop a child off. Maybe there is something going, or a car accident, or, you know, I was trying to think of different scenarios.
Right.
And the door-to-door issue, I mean, I live in Silver Lane, so basically my kid has to walk about say a quarter mile, the end of the road, to get to the bus, because the bus doesn't go all the way to where we live. So, and he didn't bus when he was, you know, he's busing now when he's in 6th grade, where I feel comfortable he can walk all the way to the bus and come back, and, you know, he has a key, he comes into the house, and I feel comfortable that way. But I can see, you know, in 1st grade, the only times that he went to with the bus, you know, either me or my wife were waiting there on the car, just waiting on the corner. I wouldn't expect him to walk that distance. So, I mean, I understand there's a door-to-door, the way it works, but there are more than one exception in addition to the, you know, to the apartment buildings, because, you know, in my road now, there used to be basically 3 kids that had to do the same thing. 2 of them moved, and my son's still there. But yeah, they always had to walk all the way to the corner. So it's not like I could be on the window and look out and make sure that he was picked up or left.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And,
I personally feel like kindergarten and 1st grade should be accounted for.
It looks like on this, I mean, it's all almost at least kindergarten and 1st grade. and
Yeah,
then
it's
if you
all,
go
and it's-
to
everyone
third-
is kindergarten.
Right.
Some do, like I'm looking at Gil Montague, it said bus drivers use their discretion for grades 1 through 5.
Right.
The only trouble with that is we often have sub-bus drivers,
Right.
or if there's a problem with the particular route, they'll rotate drivers, so it may be a regular driver, but not regular for that route. So you're asking a driver who may be unfamiliar with the children to make a judgment.
But I think that that's enough of a,
Right.
you know,
Sure.
to
Right.
even ask or,
Right.
you know, to
Inquire.
maybe if the, you know, I mean, the principal or somebody, your representative is there, most days putting the kids on the bus, you know if it's a different driver.
Right.
I mean, if it takes 10 more minutes to load these
Right,
kids and
right.
take a tally and get them out of here, 10 more minutes is nothing, you know, in comparison to all the things that could have happened. You know, and they didn't happen, and we're all really grateful that they didn't happen. And I really appreciate you being part of the solution and being so, all of your communication was very level-headed, very diplomatic, very big. And I really appreciate you being that kind of parent and
Yeah, and this is
in
great.
this community.
Yeah, this is wonderful. So is the committee's purview to take it under advisement and come back with a recommendation for
Yes.
recommended
Revised
policy
policy.
change? The only other thing I would have to make sure, because depending upon the town, the routes can take a long time, and that would mean that somebody would have to be in the office until 4 o'clock. And frankly, that's not always the case. So that would be a change of practice. I don't know what time
Do all
you're.
of the schools
How
have
about the,
after?
or the
That's what I was
after
thinking.
school?
Yes, but they may be out back, they may be, you know,
They don't have access to parent, no.
yeah.
To
It's kind
contact
of a
somebody.
separate-
It
about
really
it,
needs
yeah.
to be somebody in the office.
We can put something.
But we can
Yeah.
look, I can talk to the elementary principals about that.
Let's start.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to, because now there's a whole nother month that goes by, and every day these kids are loading the bus. So what do we do in the meantime? We just, I mean,
It was an error, you know, Ben recognized, the teacher, everyone felt awful about it. To my understanding, it has not happened before or since. I'm sure your
it's
teachers.
kind of a high
are-
alert right now
Yeah.
And
anyhow.
Everybody
it's
can just be a little
complicated
bit
because
more, yeah.
family situations are complicated now, and it's not the same routine every day.
Right.
So I did make the other principals aware of it for, you know, just to be double sure.
Right.
Vigilant.
And Sunderland only has 2 buses, so,
Right.
We are easy.
yeah. Gets more complicated with the larger.
Really conscious of,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's something in the meantime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Emily.
Anybody else? Next item. Unfinished business and the proposed FY15 budget. Is it really 2015?
It is.
I know, and it just turned 2014.
Just
Yeah.
pushing it.
Hate that about those, the way the budgets run like that, yeah.
Can I make a recommendation that we do the school choice report first, because that'll probably be shorter, and then we'll have the rest of the,
Okay.
the rest of the time to talk about the budget. And I did bring a couple of.
I have two of those, reports, in case somebody.
Usually, no one's ever told me I needed a
Patty
mic
passed
before.
that out earlier.
Did you get it? You get it? Everybody have one?
Did anybody need a copy of the budget?
I did not get one.
So you can have that one.
I'll grab one, but I'll give it back to you because mine is full.
Doug, did you get a copy of the budget from the last meeting?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so I gave you tonight our preliminary school choice report. And if you, we start with our school choice sending. At the end of June, we had 20 students that were going out, and now, as of December, we only have 17. So where last year the town had to pay $122,055 for total school choice sending, our preliminary numbers are down to $98,160, or a difference of $23,895. So where are these kids going?
Well, right now, one goes to Conway, 3 are going to Deerfield, 1's going to Gil Montague, 3 are going to Hadley, 4 are going to Hatfield, 1 is in Northampton, and 4 are in Whately, for the total of 17 children that are school choicing out.
Our Sunderland residents, this is where they're going.
That's where they're going.
Okay, I gotcha.
Now, if we look at our school choice receiving, at the end of June, we had 31 students, and we took in a total of 179,229. Preliminarily, as of December, we had 38 students coming to Sunderland, and our preliminary number is $260,210. When we talked about our budget last month, we had projected revenue of $212,479, so this is an increase of $47,731, which will add to our contingency balance in school choice to make it about $57,205. Now, where are these students coming from? Well, they're coming from Amherst, Belchertown, Conway, Deerfield. 14 of the 38 are coming from Gil Montague, 8 coming from Greenfield, 4 from Northampton, 3 from South Hadley, 1 from Springfield, and 2 from Williamsburg. Now, in addition to our school choice sending, we do have 2 elementary age students that are going to charter school. One goes to the Hilltown Cooperative, and one goes to the Pioneer Valley Chinese Immersion. And for those 2 students, the town has to pay $34,856.
What grades are those?
If I remember correctly, Tracy, I think it was 6 and 3.
Okay, so we're done with 1 next year.
Yes. So the combined school choice and charter sending, the town obligation looks like it'll be about $133,016.
That's for just the charter schools?
The charter and the choice
And
sending.
the choice, oh, okay.
So charter was, because we've got,
Charter is $98,160, and and for 2 kids, it's $34,856.
You add that, yep.
You have to add that to the school choice sending, and so combined, it comes to $133. Now, it's interesting, because the Hilltown Cooperative gets $15,013 a year per student. The Pioneer Valley Chinese School gets $18,057 per student per year.
It's the actual cost of educating the child. Choice, we get in 5,000.
Right.
Period.
That's
Has
it.
But you
never
were-
changed.
That's crazy.
Charter, it's the actual cost, and it's going to change each year depending upon those costs.
Plus, they get charged a facility fee of $893. So besides the tuition, they get an $893 facility fee for each student.
It's just outrageous.
Well, the model is what's broken.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
The funding
Absolutely,
formula.
the funding
is broken.
formula.
Yeah.
Well, you should even it up.
So if you have any questions on that, let me know, and I'll give you another one of these in June. Well, probably when we come back in September, because our final numbers we'd get probably sometime in July. But I thought this would be good information for you to see, because usually we just see our total numbers. So I wanted you to see where they're going and where they're coming from, so you have a better understanding.
so, I know there's the expression, once you give people something, they start asking for more. Is it,
Yes.
somewhere in the time, it'd be interesting to see also how the grade, like what grades,
Sure, I could do that.
too, because it gives
Our
us some
outgoing
sense
for
of.
choice.
Of
The
the sixth
outgoing-
graders
of
are going
those,
out,
how
or
many of those are in the
Particularly
6th
the
grade
out-
and things, because
particularly-
I know there was the big bump
Because the in is 2nd and 3rd grade.
with the financial meltdown and the,
And kindergarten.
you know, failure to pass an override, and so I'm just
those are the.
curious if it's maintained a bump, or we had a steady kind of
Well, don't
pattern in terms
forget.
of where they're going out. I know there's different reasons that
But
it
2 or
happens.
3 years ago, you were almost 35 going out.
I know, no, I know, and
So
that's why I
going
think,
down to what we are is a
17.
huge improvement.
agreed, totally.
So you'd like to
and
see
I'm-
the
and I
school
wonder how
choice
much-
charter sending by grade?
But-
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
That's what he said.
Well, these, yeah.
Because we get the incoming in the monthly report.
And the 5th and 6th graders,
and that's-
ones you can, we can project for the next 2 years then that
Yeah.
we're not, or we are gonna have those.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
no problem.
This is awesome.
It is, it's
It
great to
really
have
is,
too before
Patty.
meeting with the selectmen and the finance. It's just helpful to be able to see the numbers.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can repeat enough the actual cost of the outgoing charter,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because people even, are surprised.
It
continually
really
over
is.
that. So,
I didn't even think it was, I didn't realize it was quite that much now. I mean, I feel like the last figure I heard was, you know, like 11 or 12.
Four Rivers, I think, is about 12 or 13.
I didn't see anybody going from there. I haven't
Well,
seen.
not for the elementary.
No,
but-
I haven't seen anybody from any of the towns going there.
Okay.
So I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
But to hear that it could be as
18.
much as $18,000.
And that's a relatively new school.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
And they are expanding their grades.
Yes, they are. I mean, and I feel like.
So we may
you know,
not get that sixth grader back, but it would become Frontiers.
And then Frontier's gonna,
Right.
use it.
Which is Sunday. But, so here's the thing, I mean, we've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
And
And we have no,
we have no control over it. It's never changed in the, you know, a million years that I've been doing this. Very It is the frustrating. most infuriating thing. What can we do?
I can tell you, Thursday night, 7 o'clock at Frontier, Steve Gulick will be there.
Oh, my gosh. Oh.
That is your time
Oh.
to voice your concerns about funding formula and funding for regional schools and funding schools in a declining enrollment.
Used to babysit me.
We'll have to ask them all about you, Ben. But what if he was a bad
We won't bring
kid?
that up on Thursday.
Yeah, were you a good kid?
Were you a good kid or a bad kid?
Hold us for that against
Would you help the cause or make it
I
worse?
can
he
make
have-
a call. Yeah.
Does he have fond memories, or did he give up babysitting
No,
after
I was a pretty good kid, so
But I think that people don't get that. I think
Right.
that, you know, just in general, and I don't think we can say it enough.
Yeah.
And to see that actual breakdown is so helpful, Patty, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if you,
And that 5 has stayed that. I just read that somewhere too, that 5,000 has not changed since we started choice in I was gonna say- 1993.
Yep.
Is that, it's been 5,000 since
5,000.
20
1993.
years, 21
Yeah.
years.
no inflation, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. Maybe do more, more with less.
It should
Right?
be, Tracy.
But see, the towns, because the towns have to pay the outgoing, we're the recipient of the incoming. It comes directly
Sure.
to the school. The number of students you have outgoing, that bill goes directly to the towns. So the towns, of course, are not gonna lobby for an increase, because that means there's more outgoing on their part.
Nobody wants to pay that, but
Right. So it's complicated.
I understand.
it's frustrating. though.
yeah.
Right, you gotta see both, yeah. So, thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
great.
Okay, so now, if we want to flip back to the budget, do you want me to do a little summary to go over it again, or do you?
So we had initially said in our initial budget, just going back to that choice, so there is,
I have new pages,
okay,
if you want to pass those.
Yep.
so we'll get them. Oh,
There it is.
crazy.
Wow, I'm having problems. Okay.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Exactly, Patty. You read my mind. Okay.
So how would you like me to proceed, Justine? Would you like me to review the changes, like we did last time, or does anybody have any questions, or
Yeah,
what,
I
what
mean,
is?
let's do the changes, and then if, we don't need to go through the whole thing, I don't think, and, if anybody, then we can sort of go over things and discuss, great.
Okay, all right, so, for fiscal year 15, we're presenting a budget in the amount of $2,146,980. This is an increase of $61,248 from the previous year, or an increase of 2.94%. In addition, we do have retirement costs in the amount of $83,290 for 3 teacher retirements, which would have increased our budget an additional 4%. The town of Sunderland has instructed us to include these one-time retirement costs on a separate town warrant to be voted at town meeting. We also have some changes in our school choice and circuit breaker funding. But if we can look down the,
You have this one? Do you have that?
so.
Okay. Can you
does he
have
need that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ben. So if you look at page, what's called 1 of 11, because the narrative is not numbered, We have salary-related changes in the amount of $46,387, which represents 2.22%. And that's because we have we had contractual salary increases for our teachers and instructional assistants of 2%. We have 13 teachers moving on step, which is what makes it more than the 2.5, because they get the step raise plus the 2% increase. And we had one who moved to step 14, and for some reason, the chart, when you go from 13 to 14, it's a $5,000 step. So right there is a big one. We have 12 instructional assistants on step, and we had a decrease in Title I funding of about 10%. We made this change due to, with the sequestration, we didn't know what our Title I budget was gonna be. They told us to plan a 10% reduction, and we do have some money that supplements the reading specialist position, so we had to put that back in. We do have an increase in our instructional assistants of $28,561. Since our last budget cycle, we've had 4 students arrive in the district who required one-on-one aides. This is not the cost of the 4 aides, but it's offset by a reduction of 2 aides in the building, which will leave 1 general education aide per grade level. We have an increase in SPED teachers in the amount of $44,355. This is our new Horizons teacher, who this year was funded through Circuit Breaker, but because we no longer have any out-of-district students, we don't have any Circuit Breaker funding, so we had to bring that back to the budget. We have an increase in physical therapy services of $59.39. This is 1 day of physical therapy services, and it's due to an increase in services on IEPs. We decreased the contract adjustment line, $17,437. If you remember last year, the amount was for both union and non-union personnel because we didn't have a negotiated contract at this time. And this year, the amount is only for non-union staff. Decrease in kindergarten salaries, $26,346. Again, if you remember last year, late in the year, we added that second kindergarten, and we had lost an LPN, but we had never taken her out of the budget. So this year, that kindergarten teacher was funded half through school choice, half from the funding that was in the LPN budget. Next year, she'll all be funded from the school choice budget. Decrease in teacher salaries, $40,008. We have 2 retirements who are step 20M plus 15 teachers, and we're estimating the replacements to come in at a master's step 8. So that's some savings there, which aren't guaranteed because you don't know who is going to apply. So the total salary-related increases net out to 1.99%. Sunderland is having an increase in our superintendent's office expenditures of $24,745. The percentage increased from 12.62% to 14.01% due to the increase in this year's student population. Also, the overall expenses for the superintendent's office has increased 3% for salaries, health insurance, and district network expenses. We needed to increase Nature's Classroom by $300. This was a contracted stipend that was increased in the contract. The teachers were getting $50 per night. Now they're going to get $100 per night. We also needed to increase our professional development stipends by $2,550. Again, this was another new contractual obligation. We now provide $150 per year per IA, and we have 17 in the building, so we budgeted 17 times 150. Increase in evals and other services, $13,500. This increase is due to required support services in IEPs for a language-based learning disability specialist. And this is very important, even though it is expensive. It does keep, it's focusing its attention on some core reading skills that parents could opt or, make a case for wanting to get services outside. Increase in district-wide databases, 2542. This was the elimination of the standalone server moving to cloud. We also have a new system called Oasis software, and SEM software, which we've already had in the district, but it was previously paid by the SPED IDA grant. But again, that's a federal grant, and we didn't want to take a chance of it getting cut, the IDA grant, so we put it in the budget.
So with that, moving to the cloud, and what you said earlier, so that's up this year, but is that will it
It's gonna
stay
be an
up or
annual
it'll, or it'll
cost. No,
come?
it's an annual cost. So it's, they're hosting our server now.
Right,
But it
Okay.
gives us a lot, you know, it gives us a lot more flexibility and a lot more usability.
absolutely. And I was just curious if that was just a
One time.
one-time increase, because we'll have a decrease, but the other software,
The other, those costs go away,
those
the
were-
maintenance costs, the upgrade costs, all those things go away.
those will go away, so
Yeah.
that somewhat offsets
Yes.
this.
We have an increase in, other buildings and grounds accounts of 1,010. Waste removal and maintenance of equipment. In waste removal, we had an increase in our monthly pickup fee, and the maintenance of equipment is for the cost of our copier leases. Increase in maintenance of buildings, 6,050. This is due to the new Siemens contract that's required, for the energy management system we installed. In order to ensure we receive the guaranteed savings, we need to have this contract in place to demonstrate that we are keeping the system software updated and the system maintained. Increase in regular transportation, $8,210. This was due to the new transportation contract that we awarded. The per-day bus cost went from $107.13 to $127 per day. And there's also an amount budgeted for the fuel escalation clause. So altogether, the other operational increases was an increase of 2.82%. We do have some operational decreases. We're saving $110 in the MASC dues. We're using an allocation method that is more in line with the way that MASC assesses the dues. We have a decrease in principal benefits of $500. The reduction was made on an actual cost of benefit over the past 2 years. Decrease in sped transportation, $20,000. We based this decrease upon we did a 2-year analysis of utilization, and we can absorb this reduction and still have a small contingency for new transports which may occur during the year. So we are servicing our kids more in the building, so the need for transportation decreases. Same with the decrease in summer transportation of $3,500. We base that upon utilization and the number of students being transported. Decrease in heating, $15,000. In FY13, we underspent this account by approximately 53%. That was due in part to the new computerized energy management system we installed, as well as experiencing mild winter weather. This decrease will allow us to maintain last year's budget and also anticipate a longer, harsher heating season, which I think we have had so far.
But that shows that, well, I mean, it's hard to in 1 year see the effect, but, or, you know, judge the effect, but that what we're spending for the, you know, above that you mentioned, for the maintenance
The
of
maintenance
the
and the
software
Siemens.
for the Siemens stuff does pay off and.
Yeah.
Can I ask about the waste removal? Did DUSO start charging us for our trash removal?
Charging for last couple of years.
I don't know who the vendor is, Tracy. I'm just looking at the account, and I know that the monthly, actually, I looked at the bill, but I cannot recall the vendor. But the actual fee, it changed.
I think they did, Tracy, after, that was sort of,
No, they do
Right.
it for all the towns.
They do it for
They-
Frontier still, and I'm wondering, is that for your recycling?
It could be the
Because DUSO
recycling
does
only.
trash, and I believe somebody else does recycling, so.
But I will get that question answered for you, Tracy.
I'm just curious, because I've been thinking like every year we should send them a thank you note with the kids, you know, out near the dumpsters and stuff, and I actually think we should do that.
Yeah, no,
Okay, so I will get on that.
we wanna keep
well, you
it.
better wait.
Right.
Well, let's see if they're actually charging us here.
Hang on.
So with the transportation, you said it went from 107 to 127
Yes.
a day? But that's only a .39. I'm confused on the percentage change in the, that sounds like, about almost 20% increase.
Well, we had budgeted 42,510 for this year, and we're pumping it up to 50,720. So maybe my math is wrong there. I will check that formula. I don't have I did not, let me just see if I have my calculator with me.
Yeah,
Doesn't make it
I mean,
any
it's,
worse.
yeah,
42 to,
I mean, the, yeah. Obviously, the actual, the number, the dollar number is
It's the
the
same,
critical part.
right, it's the percentage that.
But I just stuck out.
It is a 20% increase, but when we compare it to the total budget, we're not comparing that to that one
Got
line
you,
item, we're
gotcha.
comparing it to the total,
What
change in the total
element-
budget,
Gotcha,
okay?
thank you.
Okay, so with all those, with the decreases of 39,110, we had a decrease of 188, which nets out to a change of 61,248, or 2.94%. Now, if you look at your new page, one of which is, that I handed out tonight, for the school choice, so we're still projecting that we'll have $54,112 at the end of this year. And then we'll add the 260,210, which will make available for use $314,322. And we were projecting uses of 98,370 for teacher salaries, 123,850 for some aides, 15,625 for sped summer programs, 6,552 for a half day of, that should say a half day of strings, and 12,720 for salary Spanish instruction for one day. So the uses total $257,117, and that would now give us a nice contingency of $57,205 in the school choice for items that pop up during the year.
Rather than just taking it down to 9.
We would have been down to about $9,400, almost $9,500. So this is, you know, this is good news. Circuit breaker, we're not projecting any revenue for 15, and this is a decrease from 14 of $77,924. Our circuit breaker funding is undergoing changes due to our ability to educate our special education students in their home schools rather than in the more expensive, what they call a Chapter 766 out-of-district placement. In FY13, we expended $225,436 in out-of-district placements in order to generate the $77,924 in circuit breaker funding. In the year previous, we were able to generate approximately $90,000 in circuit breaker revenue by expending $239. So with the creation of the Horizons program, we are able to provide programming for our students at a cost of approximately $151,624, while generating revenue to support some of the services provided in the program by tuitioning in students from other districts. So our beginning balance in the circuit breaker is projected to be $30,560, and because it is such a low projection, we're going to await the actual final figures before projecting expenditures for this account. And in this fiscal year 14, it was able to fund the Horizon teacher and the aides, which we did have to move over to the new funding. So, I mean, yeah, you know, sad that we're not getting some circuit breaker money, but we're saving a lot more.
Saving a lot more, right.
Now, so does that, I was wondering, does that, can I see, does that show up somewhere else in here? What we're saving, or is it currently on net out to about the same? So before it would have been the cost of the out-of-district placement partially offset by circuit breaker, leaving a net of whatever, say 150. Now we're not getting the circuit breaker. We're doing it ourselves, and with the other pluses of that, and the cost is say 150. So then there's really overall no net change, money dollar-wise, for us. Is that where we're at? Or are we actually realizing savings somewhere in the budget because we're doing?
We are realizing savings because we're able, with the money that we're receiving, and that I don't have a budget for
Okay.
yet, because it's our first year, so we can present one in the fall, so we can see where we ended up and where we're projecting. But we actually have developed a SPED revolving account now, and that's that's money that we get from other districts because their kids are attending our specialized program here. And what we're able to do with that money is we're using that money to provide more services to these children, more language-based services, more therapies that they, maybe more concentrated speech therapies, and then that money's not hitting our budget at all.
It's just coming out of that revolving account.
Exactly.
So you're not even seeing that,
Right. Okay.
okay?
So where
Right.
does the expense of the Horizons program is,
It's,
Which-
right, what's
where-
in our budget, Doug, is one teacher and I believe two aides.
okay. Okay,
And I can show that to you, like I said, because this is our first year, it's hard to do it, but come fall, after we've had 1 year, I'll be able to put some numbers together for you, and we'll show you that and what we're projecting to go forward.
so in terms of this budget, there's no real change?
Except that
It's
we're bringing the teacher on to the budget.
Okay.
Whereas before they were paid through service.
There is
Okay,
that.
okay. So they were paid
From
in this-
circuit
for
breaker.
this year from the budget through the circuit
Right.
breaker funds.
And
Gotcha.
next year, they have to be funded by our local budget.
Okay, so that does what does show up in the,
And the changes under increase in sped teacher,
right, okay. There you go.
I
Okay.
know that circuit breaker amount of 3560 is not a huge amount, but that's not something that, I mean, once you get the circuit breaker, you keep it, A, and B, it's not like a part of our budget that, goes back to the town if we
No.
have it left over.
no. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that that's what our ending balance is, and then we'll probably just use that to offset a piece of somebody's salary. Or we might buy something for a sped program with those funds.
So I mean, I think that's really important to point out that, that, 44,355, which is 2.13 out of 2.94, is something which really, it looks like the increase in our budget, but, but it's, in some sense, it's really allowing us, well, A, to educate those kids here at not really an increased cost. I mean, it shows up this year on the budget that way.
Right, but if we sent them to a Deerfield program, it probably would have cost us
We
$28,000
would have
per
paid
student.
more than we would have got back in circuit breaker.
Exactly, or if they couldn't program them in Deerfield in an out-of-district placement, it would be upwards of $40,000 per
Right.
student.
Right.
And I think that would be the long and short of it when you're explaining it to
transportation,
somebody
exactly, just-
I
on
just think
town
it's-
meeting floor, or,
Right.
that's,
It's
Yeah.
important that they
Potentially,
understand
you
that.
could have a couple of students come. Once you've established your program, the first year, it's
Yeah.
hard to attract people from
Yeah.
outside the
Yeah.
district. But once you've established that, watching that at Frontier, you bring in students from other districts, and then you are creating more revenue.
Right.
So-
And then hopefully it becomes a self-sufficient program.
Right.
Yep.
So that's the presentation of the budget. If there's any questions that I can answer for you, or if there's anything else that you'd like to see.
So Patty, just a clarification with those retirement funds, that is definitely going to a warrant? I know
Yes.
last time okay.
Yes, those will be put on a warrant article and gone separately.
And
That
gone
is-
separately.
That was conversation that Justine had with the town, and that's how they'd like to deal with it,
Great,
rather than see our budget increase another 4%.
another 4%,
Because it's a one-time cost.
right, right. And that's 3 retirements?
There's 3
I mean, that's
retirements,
Quite a
yes.
few in one, yeah. For our budget to
Have we
sustain.
created that article yet? for
No.
the warrant? Okay,
I'll do that for you.
okay.
Yes, Tracy?
So the development of the Horizons program was based on population here that we needed to, take care of. Now, so is there no tuition in for that right now?
There's two.
We're not paying tuition. We're paying for the teacher.
No, I mean, are there kids from
There
out
are
of
two
town?
children from
Yes.
out of
Okay,
yeah.
okay, good, okay, great.
Who are
That's what I
paying
thought.
tuition,
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
right now.
We have two
Okay.
and two. I believe there's 4 students
4
total.
kids
2
total.
are ours and 2 are coming from out of district,
Okay, great, great.
Within the region, but out of
Right.
Sunderland.
within the union schools.
Okay. That's what I've been telling people, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I wasn't fibbing. Okay, great.
What? Right, right.
Now, this does not include something that we had talked about at the last meeting as well, about that, the fifth going into sixth grade class. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We had talked, when I look at the
Right.
minutes of the last meeting, we said we'd talk about it. It did represent an increase to 4.26% if we were to increase the bottom line by 27,594.
By 27, it was 27 because we said we'd take away an aid, because we wouldn't need an aid, we
Correct.
wouldn't need any smaller class
Correct.
sizes.
Right,
And
correct.
what about, I'm just throwing this out there, folks, that we have 57,000 left over in our choice.
Now we do.
Right,
Right.
You mean, how does it feel if it's 30?
right.
It feels fine to me. But,
The only question I would ask again is, this is a 1 year, based on what I'm looking at for your population. This would be a 1 year position only. Because you don't have a place for that person the following year. So it would be a temporary position that would still be entitled to benefits.
Would still be entitled to benefits.
Health.
Unemployment?
Yes,
Oh.
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
So after she stops working here, we'll still be.
Right, right.
The other thing too that, you know, that I want you to keep in mind is that in a span of 8 months, we had 4 children walk through the door that had some pretty hefty needs that we've been able to maintain in the school district by giving them a one-to-one aid. And it just concerns me that if we're looking at, you know, if we're looking at another increase of 22 students next year, with 22 students and 4 of them having some IEP issues, you know, are we gonna have that same ratio next year? And that's what concerns me about depleting the school choice budget, because that is what saved us this year.
Okay, you were gonna say. So, a couple things. So on the potential expenses, benefits, like with unemployment insurance, I mean, it potentially affects how much we have to pay, and we don't pay, or do we, with
The-
unemployment?
The
We
town
don't-
pays, and it's a chargeback to our end of the year report.
But the town pays the full amount of the unemployment insurance, or the town pays
I'm not
into the
sure if-
pool based on
I would have to
usage?
check
I mean,
that,
as
Doug.
a-
I'm not sure if the town is self-insured or not.
Okay.
And how many, oh, sorry, go ahead, Trace.
Ryan, oh, that's all
Would
right.
it be a temporary position?
How many kids are in that, are going into that? 27.
Is that still correct?
Yes.
27?
27.
Do we track, do we have like request for information? Do we track when people call for school of choice? I'm just thinking the grade below, which would be the next one coming up. I mean, do we have a little database of people who have called that we've said, no, thank you, because we can't take you? I mean, how would we sort of generate a list of people that we can then reach out to and solicit?
You mean for this particular 5th grade class?
Well,
Or in general?
if,
Right,
for
fifth
this
grade
fifth
class.
grade class, if it got
Mhm.
split, you know, it presumably would fill 2 classrooms, you know, with 1 or 2 extra kids. But the grade coming up below that, to continue to keep the class split for the next 6th grade coming up, that 5th grade. I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tricky, Tracy,
hard.
because typically in schools, right about now, parents are calling
right,
to inquire
Right,
about the
now's the
process for school's choice. And generally in April, I believe, school committee votes the number of slots based upon the recommendation from the principal. Typically, you do not have as many applicants for the upper grades as you do for the lower grades. You currently have 22 students in 4th grade. So that is a smaller
Yeah.
class.
yes, it's a good size.
You can't always guarantee you're gonna get, you know, what you're hoping for in that school. I also would tell you that parents, for the most part, apply to multiple schools. And you may accept 10 kids for school choice and only have 4 enrolled because they've applied to, you know, they're shopping around.
Right, but we're a pretty good shopping place these days with
Absolutely.
Spanish
Right,
and
absolutely.
things and full PE and art and music, you know, I mean, I think it says it here in our, incoming school of choice, so I think continuing to develop that is a good strategy.
And I think you have. You've seen an increase in enrollment, and you've seen a decrease in the numbers going out. I will tell you, it's risky, though, because we're all vying for a finite number of kids that county-wide is decreasing.
Smaller and smaller.
We're getting smaller and smaller numbers. NESDEC just did a 10-year study for me. I'm going to be presenting it at the February meetings. They are looking for our district to decrease in numbers by 100 students in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, that's across all 5 schools, so it's not a huge number.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
Sunderland is looking to at least pretty much stabilize. They're not decreasing. But they're not increasing. It's just a very slow, decline in the district.
No, they're living in Montague,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
right.
So, I kind of expressed this last time, and it just, to say again, with this class, as I disclosed last time, and it's true for 3 of us in here, I have a daughter in the class, my younger daughter, and I had my older daughter was in the same teacher last year, and so I know the teacher, and I know the teacher knew my older daughter very well by the time of our parent-teacher conference at the first conference, and I know that this, for my parent-teacher conference this year, that she doesn't know my younger daughter very well at all academically, and that's distressing to me as a parent. It's distressing to me as a school committee member, and I know it's not the teacher. It's the circumstances, and so and that's 27 kids in that class that are going through that, and as we discussed last time, we had a special circumstance, honestly, when we split it for the 4th grade, where we had a certified teacher as the aide, who was, now the lead teacher in our school. And, that allowed me to feel comfortable with it last year. And I, as I said, I regret not having revisited it more going into this year, for a variety of reasons anyway, in terms of, are we going to have the same circumstance, for this year? And clearly we don't, and understandably that was a lucky situation. But without that, I think, I understand there's plenty of schools that go through this, but I know what kids are missing out on when we do that. And I just feel like I would hope that we wouldn't do that here in Sunderland. And to try to find a way, I don't know what that means within our budget or working with the select board, to see what they can do. I mean, they know what we've gone through and tried to work with them with our budgets and keeping it down through tough times. But I'd like to see us find a way to figure this out and figure out if there's any ways we can deal with the implications that it may be a 1-year and a short-term thing, and so on.
Well, are we gonna maintain 2 kindergarten classrooms next year?
We don't know.
So far.
Yeah, we don't know
We
that
have
yet.
no
So
idea.
early.
So,
Right.
okay.
That's
Well,
that's the big
could be-
unknown.
Right now, I
Tracy, the thing with that is that most people with their certifications now specialize K to 3, so they couldn't teach a 6th grade class. Because, most people with certification, which they used to go, some of them still do get K to 6, but mostly they're specializing in K to 3. So they wouldn't have the certification to teach up.
But we would have 2 first grade classes
Right.
next year, so I mean, one of the
See,
teachers.
they have to,
But
we
they
will
can go
have to
down.
first
We have to
grade.
follow those kids up.
Right.
Right.
They can go down, it's harder, it's harder to go up.
You can't go up.
It
It's
is,
K
yeah.
through 3, and then but if you're a 6th grade teacher and if you suddenly had 2 kindergartens, you could
you could go
Right,
down.
so if we continued to have that, we don't know.
Could I make a recommendation? If you were wanting to pursue an additional teacher in the sixth grade, that I think the budget as it is now, the number, is very palatable to the town fathers. I don't think you would run into much disagreement. It's looking like Frontiers, I can say this publicly, now is gonna be under 3 as well, 2 point something. So, we don't know what the assessments are until we get the governor's budget tomorrow, until we hear from DESE. If you were to want to add an additional 27,000, which would put you over 4, I would recommend, even though it's depleting sort of your reserve, putting some of that choice money towards it, still try to keep the budget under 3. Because we still don't know, I still don't know what Sunderland's assessment's gonna be. And even though it's only an increase of 2 point something, their assessment could still be 8%. And we don't know that yet. And if you're coming in at 4, and Frontier's coming in at a higher number, we're gonna have some difficulties. And I think it'll be difficult to sell that with 27 students when 3 of you are parents of students in that class.
Yeah.
You know, and we have to be honest about that. So our timeline is, we have a public hearing on the budget at 6 PM in February at our next meeting. I guess we're gonna do that prior to the regular meeting. We need to have a recommendation at that point. And we need kind of a recommendation from you so that we can put forth some figures together.
One other question I had, it was, I think the last one, and where you were expecting, was it that no funding for Title I, or, is that right?
Title I, right,
yeah.
we had to decrease, the funding that we, there, 10% of a person's salary has been funded by Title I, and we're cutting that. And that had to be added back to the budget.
And that was based on the,
Sequestration,
And
and that
is
could
that-
be restored.
because I mean, with the budget deal that's happened, I don't know what how that factored in.
Right.
But I know that some of the things that would have been
Massachusetts was
cut.
also losing money because of declining population. So we may not the
May
full
not-
10% wasn't an effective sequestration. It's also because Massachusetts has had a declining
Right.
enrollment.
But
As
the-
as the state as a whole, so the money is less coming into the state and then it gets allocated out.
And the dollar amount of that is,
I don't know
that
off the top of my
10%
head.
was like, I think, what's it,
10%.
I don't think I put it down.
okay.
The other piece, just to keep in mind, because it's a one-time expense, the town is absorbing an additional $90,000 that typically would have come out of our budget because of the retirements.
Retirements, yep.
So again, I'm
Yep.
trying to,
Yep,
think
I
of
know.
all parties involved.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, and we've certainly all been through this before
I know.
with just the town in general and trying to pass things that, other things that we were pretty passionate about. And, I mean, while I've certainly been where everybody's sitting in terms of that class and having it, it's really more of the makeup and not about the number. But we all know how hard that is to sell,
Doug, it was about $1,705.
Okay.
Well, can we
Okay.
split the difference and get a more qualified aide? Like we had for fourth grade?
But I think that's
Somebody
just,
who's just about to become a certified teacher, who's just about, and this is a year of,
That's hard, Tracy, because they might commit to us as an aide, and if they get a job at the last second as a teacher, they're gonna go.
and I don't know also, I mean, and this is no, without judgment on the, I think there are teachers who are, it's within their comfort zone to co-teach, and there are those who it's not, and that's not a right or wrong, that's just kind of who you are and how you teach. And I honestly don't know the
and
case.
it just worked for you guys for fourth grade.
Right,
It worked.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, not to say we couldn't try to make that work, but it certainly would, be
Can
a-
I ask, what happened when they were in third grade? Was the number smaller?
two
It was
classes.
two.
There were 2 classes, okay.
They'd been 2 classes since kindergarten, and then in 4th grade merged.
That's when they merged, all right.
And that was a tough, I remember.
What was their
tough.
number
Sitting
in
here.
4th grade?
Yeah,
Thinking, you know,
4th grade, I think it was 27 or 26 this past year.
It was 26 and went up to 27, and then she left, and then we had another one come, you know, it was kind of like.
We had someone else come in
Right, right.
mid-year here. yeah.
Right.
I will, you know, if I were to do this, I would, I think what happened with the amount that we got for choice, you know, it's a one-time, it'll be a one-time thing. If, you know, we need to add another class because we have, but this is just this one-time thing. There's a lot of changes coming. I'm just concerned. I would love to, you know, lose one aide and have another teacher, and if we could, you know, I'm okay with going down on the choice amounts. I mean, I've been at 5,000 and, it's been okay. We've never gone to the town in 10 years for more money. I just think for this class at this time, and I think if we can attract some kids into the grade, with the, you know, you'll go up to
We'll
Frontier
want
and
to pipe into
and be into
Frontier,
that,
exactly.
and, you know, what's going on there, that's my opinion. You know, I did do it with my son with 28 kids, and it was a mess, and you know, their scores showed it. It was 6th grade, it wasn't pretty, and it really wasn't, so. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't, you know, and I think if we have this, especially with, you know, what we have in the choice the money,
And just remember that this is an estimate,
Mhm.
looking at a teacher at around $45,000, which would be a new teacher. We're looking at somebody that's coming out of school with their master's degree at that level, and not a highly experienced teacher. And again, depending on who applies, you know, you could be talking about a flip-flop from $45,000 to $60,000. So just keep that in the back of your minds as well.
When will we know about the money that we've applied for from the state?
But that's already spoken for. That's for
Okay.
this year.
Right, all right, never mind. I'm just looking at other sources.
I know, I mean, I'm wondering
I
if
think
there's a-
selling ourselves to those that are
Creative
not here
way.
yet is I mean, we've just got so much to share.
well, we've been
And to
commendation
take their
school
money
2 years in a
forward.
row,
2
running.
years in a row, right?
So, yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
Can I make a comment, or as
Sure.
an
Sure,
audience member, can I not do that?
No, please.
I'm just wondering, are there savings that will be realized in the I understand we have that $83,000 amount in terms of outgoing retirees, but in the hiring of replacement teachers, is it likely that some savings will be gained?
Yes.
We've already
That's
accounted for
already
that,
accounted for
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
I missed that part.
yeah.
Saved it, spent it.
And I have to say too, I mean, I think that we've been extremely responsible in our budgets in the past few years. We've worked really hard and, you know, I'm comfortable with our percentage going to the town, with this year. And what we've been able to do, our numbers are up, we're certainly not going down like we were, you know, so.
You know, and all the teachers in this, you know, school are extremely, extremely strong. And these current 5th graders are going to a extremely veteran 6th grade teacher. And, you know, one of the things that we could look at on our end is if the students stay as a group, is how we can best support that classroom with the resources we already have in the building, whether it's sending another instructional assistant in that direction for parts of the day. But I just think we can look at all avenues for that if we do end up staying as a group.
The only other thing too, I would say about, I hear, you know, it's great to, you know, put another, you know, aide. What ends up also happening with that age, they're bigger kids. it gets to be a lot of big bodies and a lot of big changing bodies in a sixth grade classroom. And then they're also doing specials, and they're in and out of this, you know, the classroom, like they did a lot of that in fourth grade with this class. They were they spent a lot of time separating throughout the day, going to their different things and being in their different groups. And then in sixth grade, they're doing band and strings and gym and art, and so it's more of that movement. So I appreciate that, but I think that, you know, it's just a different ball of wax between even fourth and sixth grade and third and sixth grade, so.
Yeah, I mean, I know
And I know
if it, you know, at the end of the day and after all is said and done, whether what a combination of what we do and, you know, the budget process with the town, you know, if it's one classroom, I know everybody in this building will, you know, do the incredible work they do to make it the best possible experience under those circumstances, and they are great. And, you know, but I know that the grade 5 teacher is a great teacher, you know, and I just, and so, you know, and I just, the reality of dealing with those numbers is, you know, there's a way you can teach to those numbers, you know, that, you know, that doesn't capture, you know, doesn't, I think it gets challenging for capturing, you know, there's a certain, you know, kid who can thrive in that setting, you know, who can pretty much thrive in any setting. And then there's all, you know, and there's all the rest, you know, where I think it's challenging in one way or another, you know, and I know that's true for my kid, and I suspect others. So we, you know, that's why I'm advocating, and I have advocated for it on, you know, behalf of classrooms that weren't, you know, in that situation. In fact, when they went to 2 classrooms, it's because we did it so that we could split a younger grade classroom. So, you know, that was saying, you know, our kids will suck it up, because we know that was the best thing overall for all the kids in the building.
Will we just have 2 singleton classes then? If I'm looking at next year, it looks like we will have one second grade and one fifth. Is that correct?
Yes.
And everybody else will have 2. Okay.
And not sure about kindergarten.
And we're not sure about kindergarten. Based on what we have right now, yeah, I couldn't predict, but I would hope that we're at 1. That is another consideration.
And it's such a late, that comes so
Right.
much later.
Because by then you have depleted your school choice down to 30,000.
And I'm gonna say that if I'm gonna feel like if we're gonna have 2 teachers and we have 2 classes that need the 2 teachers, then I would prefer the younger class to have the 2 teachers and the older one.
So
That's why.
you're saying if we have,
Smart about the aid.
we have,
You have 2 teachers in every grade. You would have, if you vote this position. 2 teachers in every grade, except for kindergarten, second, and fourth.
Fourth would have,
Next year.
Next year.
fourth would have 2 teachers.
Fourth would have 2, but fifth won't have 2.
Fifth, I'm sorry.
Already, yeah,
But my concern is,
22.
let's say you vote the position, because you could also do this. You could vote a position
Using it in kindergarten or sixth.
and at least have it
That's
in the
what I would
budget.
do.
And if it is kindergarten, don't forget there's an aide that has to.
Well, that feels a little better,
Right.
Marty, in terms of, well, you know what I keep coming back to too, and I mean, we're trying to be fiscally responsible, and we do have this $57,000, but I do keep coming back to the question, you know, what is the best thing we can do for those kids? And the best thing we can do for those kids is to have 2 classes, and it's not just parents willy-nilly saying, oh, 27 feels bad. I remember being in that 6th grade class and I knew those kids, this is going back, and I think Justine's right, just the sheer volume of all of those kids in that room, we're not talking about 3rd graders anymore. You know, you're talking about big adolescent kids. And I think if we can do it, then I think that's what we should do. And then, you know, back that up in terms of just that question. That would be what's best for those kids in that classroom. But I like that idea, Marty, of sort of at least
Voting
having
the
that
position.
position and then seeing, Who needs
And
it?
which is exactly what we did 2 years ago.
Who needs it?
Well, do we have a motion? And we'll need, I think we said the impact of the budget would be an increase to the bottom line of $27,594. And then leave it to Patty and I to figure out how to fund it right now. But probably with a likelihood
It'll come out of there.
school choice.
So moved?
So Justine
Oh.
made the motion?
No, I think Doug made the motion.
What is
Yeah.
the
Oh,
motion? What's the motion?
What she said.
increase the
yes.
budget by $27,594.
Classroom.
For an
teacher?
additional
For an
position.
additional classroom position. The reason it's this much was because originally it was intended for sixth grade and we would decrease it by an aide,
Right, but if we end up using it for kindergarten, we won't be decreasing the aid, we'll be adding.
adding an aide.
Right, but our school of choice, because we're gonna start marketing ourselves better, is going to improve so much that it will be a gain.
But you don't wanna blow it up too much, and then we're gonna add more teachers. The class sizes are then gonna have to be split into threes, we gotta be careful.
No,
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 but,
no.
no, we won't get to that
Oh,
point
gosh, no.
in kindergarten.
We have control over
We
it.
have a long way, but it is, I think Tracy's point, I think it's extremely
No, we
likely
don't
if,
send a little packet that says, you know, I mean, it would be a little bit of money and a little more time.
it would be surprising if we actually got to where it was 2 kindergartens that we didn't have enough school choice money to pay for the aid. It would be shocking, based on recent experience and how.
If that's the kind of
the s-
numbers we were looking at.
Yeah,
If
if
that's- we
that
were at
was,
that point.
if we were in that situation, right?
So Doug made the motion, who made the second?
I second it.
Okay, Annie.
Any more discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Two. Okay, so what we will do, we will send
Find money
this-
where there's.
we will send this out to you because I still would like to keep the budget increase under 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll send it out as an email before the public hearing. so
Before
that you'll have that
February's-
information, okay, beforehand.
We did school choice, so we're moving on to, reports. I would just, 2 things, it is budget season coming, and we're not live, but I wanna remind everybody to get involved and ask questions and come to our meeting on February 4th. I think
February
it is?
4th at 6 PM.
Very
Oh,
early.
that's right, it's early.
Yes,
That one's
at
always
6
falls
PM
early.
in the school cafeteria. Always a great discussion, and so love to see people there. And, you know, just have to say, coming into the school the other day to the concert, yeah, it was fabulous. There were so many people there and so many kids, and
Shining kids.
it was awesome.
Really shining.
Yeah, and just to see that after all these years of a handful of us there, to see a full gym was really good.
Yeah.
And I did not go to my Frontier meeting, so Marty is going to give the update on Frontier.
I'm sorry, Patty was distracting me, so I wasn't
I said I did not go to the Frontier meeting.
Oh, I
So-
can give you that. I think Ben's report's before mine, so.
Okay, you'll give that.
But I'll give
Great,
that, yeah,
super.
yeah.
Anybody else collaborative? I did see something in the paper. We're down to 2
There's
people.
2, I can bring you up to date on that. There's 2, they're being interviewed tomorrow night, and supposedly they're going to make their selection tomorrow night.
Wow.
Correct,
It's only been 8 months.
correct. The agenda is to,
Takes time.
yeah, to do the interviews in the meeting and,
Make a decision.
yep, make a decision, so.
Great. That's exciting. Excellent. Principal Barszewski.
All right. Well, Sunderland is a very busy place, that's for sure. A lot to report on tonight. January 1st, we held our Snowflake Skate, which is a fundraiser for our 6th grade class at the UMass Mullen Center practice rink. Approximately $1,200 was raised to support the 6th grade class. And I was able to throw on a pair of skates, and multiple students were going in circles around me. Yes. I either used the ice or the wall to stop, you know. Justine, you already touched on the winter concert, and it was a huge success. And a special thank you goes out to Denise Gendron, Ed Hines, our music teacher, and Jackie Ramoska, our band teacher. They did an absolutely phenomenal job. Last week, I had the pleasure of joining our third grade classes to the Springfield Science Museums. They attended interactive classes that focused on the water cycle, the plant life cycle, and simple machines. And all of those academic disciplines tie into our third grade curriculum. So it's very hands-on, well worth it. And in the future, we might look to see if we can get more classes down to the museums, because it's such a great resource that's so close to our school.
My third grader said she learned more in that one day than she could ever remember, you know, being at that field trip. So I think it was a lot, it was very academic for a field trip, you know. So
Absolutely, and the, you know, in the way if the field trip didn't just end there, the teachers brought back information.
Right.
They're doing science experiments in the classroom. They're writing narratives, so it's really a great piece we have here
I
at
think
Sunderland.
maybe that's why they were so ready, she had prepared them so well to go to it, that they had such access to the, you know, what they were learning there, so I agree.
Absolutely. On Wednesday, January 29th, Sunderland will be hosting International Night. And this is supported by the local cultural council. We had a small funding through them. Vicki Palmer has been a big person in this event. And it's going to be a potluck where families will bring in meals that, you know, support their culture at home. And we're going to have a performer, master teacher Abdou Sarr. He's from Senegal, West Africa, and he's going to perform music, dancing, singing for the whole group. School mascot. We recently had students submit ideas regarding a school mascot at Sunderland. And after sifting through approximately 175 nominations that ranged from the alligators to the swamp monsters to the corn shuckers to the sparkle fairy butterflies, the Barbies, and those are some preschool ones. We've narrowed the list down to the tigers, cyclones, eagles, snakes, and sharks.
The Sunderland Sharks!
I don't like snakes.
Because it's.
Because we have some
the Connecticut-
emotion.
Right,
Connecticut
yeah.
River
So-
is full of sharks.
So when I introduced the idea, you know,
Swamp sharks.
I hinted that we might want the mascot to kind of apply to our area,
Right,
and
right,
you know,
right.
so
Okay.
we had some creative nominees.
We're in
But-
the Northeast, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So the plan is, once the students vote on the mascot, we'll have them submit artwork where they can then vote on, and that can be our logo. And Deerfield Elementary School did this in the past couple of years, and they've used it as a fundraising event. So many of the shirts they sell, you know, we are the Farmy Fresh and Fun, but it might be cool for the kids to have some.
Yeah, so
Sunderland
they chose.
Cyclones,
Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
bags, they do all sorts of things in
Yeah.
Deerfield on their
Absolutely.
newsletters, they have the bear paws.
I was gonna say, what's the bears?
The Black Bears.
The black bears.
Bears,
Okay,
Black
I don't think I
bears.
ever realized that.
And it's, you know, that project was 100% student generated from the mascot that they chose to the artwork that was created.
Right,
It was really special.
that's great.
Next page, sixth grade junior achievement. This has been going on at Sunderland for the past 4 years. The goal of the junior achievement program is to explore key aspects of the global economy. And usually Ellen Von Flattern, our sixth grade teacher, has volunteers come in. This year, her daughter, Jenny, who's a senior at UMass in the Eisenberg School of Management in the Commonwealth Honors College, helped our group out. We also had Mr. Greg Debkowski come in, and he's a teacher for the UMass, or retired teacher for the UMass Polymer Science Department. So very hands-on. The students had a great experience, and it was really another special 4 or 5 day event we had here at Sunderland.
having a son that never says anything about what happens in school when he comes back home. He talked about the polymer science.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, he definitely was.
Excellent, yeah. So, you know, we have some future scientists here.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it was a really cool experience. Amanda Lindsay is the long-term IA sub in the preschool. Previously, it was going to be someone else. She ended up taking a full-time job in another district. Upcoming events tomorrow, the Eaglebrook band concert. Band will be coming, weather depending, for a half-hour concert. They have 49 members of their band, so they'll be showing up. International night a week from tomorrow, and then Monday, February 3rd, Tuesday, February 4th, the Tar Wars presentation for grades 5 and 6.
What's that?
What is a Tar Wars?
That is tobacco use.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, cool.
And then, the 7th is the pajama party with Roger Tinknow.
How could
February
I
7th.
forget?
I mean, I know
Yeah.
we're not really that far down the road, but just thought I'd throw it in there.
February
since
7th,
we're-
Trace?
I neglected to include the pajama party.
Get your best PJs ready.
Yeah.
Roger.
It's free.
Superintendent's report. I have a very brief report I handed out. I will give you a heads up, Mr. Zemnoski, that after my report, I am going to need to go into a brief executive session. So just to let you know that. Okay. Okay, yeah, it'll be 4 minutes, 5 minutes tops. As I mentioned earlier, there's a second, I call it special meeting of the Frontier School Committee on Thursday night at Frontier. In September, I invited, we had the entire school committee, and we invited all the select boards, we invited all the finance people. Because one of the charges that I felt I got when I took over this job was to gather more people, to have open discussions about budgeting and process, and to have more transparency. So it was a large meeting. There were almost 50 people there. So it's very hard to have a discussion that way. But two things that came out of it that are good is that we came up with a strategic planning meeting, and we came up with a capital improvement subcommittee. Two people chaired it. One has been meeting pretty regularly. The other hasn't met as frequently, but they're going to give their reports back of where they are in the process. Because the governor's budget is coming out tomorrow, I thought it prudent to see if Steve Kulik might be available to talk about the things. We're all competing. You know, I truly believe that towns want the best schools they can have. They want the best roads, they want the best highway and police and fire departments, but there's a finite amount of money. And how do we do that? As enrollments decline, as grants dry up, we are not a high need district. We don't qualify for many things. We don't qualify for much federal funding. And is there another way to look at it? So I'm hoping that he can shed some light. So I invite people to come. Unfortunately, this date was set months ago. It coincides with the state municipal conference in Boston. So many of the select board people will not be there, but most of the finance committee people will be. And they're sometimes overlooked. So if we're just dealing with them primarily, that's fine. And I don't expect this to be, you know, thank you, we've had the meeting, you know, it's all done. This is going to be ongoing discussions. So I think just the fact of inviting people to the table and talking about it, it can't hurt. Sort of interesting that I have the next little statement in there because of the weather we're expecting tonight. We've had 3 snow days already. It makes me nervous. This is January 21st, so it's currently, just for planning purposes, our last day of school right now is June 17th to all the families out there. That's with the 3, so we'll see. I am really hoping that our weather that we get tonight goes further to the east and that we're able to have school and have it on time. I also just wanted to let you know that Patty and I met a couple of weeks ago with Steve Hammond. He's the executive director of the Massachusetts Regional Schools. And as a new superintendent, and Patty's been a business manager for some time, but has not been in a regional school system. So I wanted to make sure that we were on track and that we were doing what we needed to do in a proper fashion as far as regional agreement and our funding. And so I'm pleased that we were. He thinks we are starting our budget process too early. But that's okay. At least for this year, for me, it never feels like enough time. So I thought we were doing all right with that. So that's what I have. And at the school committee meeting, they did vote, I think, what was it, at Frontier, 2.8.
Can you look in the, you've got it, I gave you the reports. I can't, it's hard for me to
It is
remember
under
5 different
3.
budgets.
So Frontier, we had the budget subcommittee meeting, and then it was presented to the full committee at this month's meeting, and people were quite pleased with that. So
Yeah.
what we're not doing this year, but I just want to prepare people for the FY16, is we are not, I know, we are not bringing forth any large capital projects. I am still trying to get a ruling on how to do that with a regional school. A meeting I went to last week felt that your best bet, because the language is very fuzzy, if you need 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4, if you remember at the Sunderland town meeting last year, is to really put it either under a loan or put it within your operating budget. And the trick for that is, how do you put it in your operating budget for things that you need, that cost money, without increasing your budget beyond the recommended 2 and 2.5?
You can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
So I'm giving people a long heads up that our buildings are 20 years old. We were charged with being good stewards and maintaining our buildings, and we can't do it within the regular operation budget that we have right now. And we have put forth very few capital projects throughout the district.
It's a 2.98%.
Yeah. 2.98.
Right below 3%.
Yeah. So that's what I have, and then, like I said, I do have a need for a brief executive session.
So we need to vote to go into executive
You
session?
do, and the
Roll call?
purpose is for pending litigation.
Do I have a motion?
Make the motion to go into executive session?
Second the motion?
Do we need to do a roll call? Roll call,
You
don't
do,
you?
you need to do an
Tracy?
individual.
Amy? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Carlos?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Patty has,
Thank you, Patty.
she can stay, but she has elected to
Sarah,
go.
thank
Go
you
home.
too.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thanks.
coming.